Okay, so hello, welcome to Getting Started with Zotero. This workshop is going to cover the Zotero citation management system, so hopefully you're here for that and not something else. My name's Erin Thomas. I'm one of the science and technology librarians here. My colleague Chris Stacy Bates will also be helping me with this workshop. Let's get started, right? So Zotero is one of many citation management software options that exists right now. Zotero is a little bit different from some of the others in that it is more of an open program than some of the others. Some of the other citation management programs are operated by large publishing companies, for example. Zotero is not. So it's a little bit different that way. In terms of its functionality, it's similar to a lot of the other options that are out there. So we'll go over what you can use it to do, how you use it, things like that. We'll show you how to collect the citations, how you can, save them from the web or import from a different citation management system or a database, how to organize the records, make changes. I'm sure you've all seen papers online that maybe the title is in all capital letters, things like that. You can fix that right in Zotero so that your citations come out looking professional and appropriate instead of using weird or incorrect metadata. We'll also talk about syncing your data so that if you're using one of our computers today, you can sync everything that you do today to your account through the Zotero website and then download it on your own computer at home into Zotero, so everything that you do today will not be lost. We'll also get into how Zotero integrates with Word and other word processing programs so that you can easily create citations and bibliographies. We'll talk about how to add new citation styles. Zotero can do just about any citation style that you need, which is pretty great. And we'll also talk a little bit about collaborating and using group libraries to share citations and work together on projects. Okay? So if you brought your own computer, great. If you did not, you'll have to use one of ours. That's fine. They do not have Zotero preloaded on them. So if you don't have it already loaded on your computer that you brought or you're using one of ours, you'll want to go to zotero.org, and it's just zotero.org, and download Zotero 5.0 for Windows or your operating system, as well as the connector for the browser of your choice. Okay, so there's two components to Zotero. The connector is what enables your web browser to talk to Zotero and send that information back and forth so that you can harvest citations from the web. Okay, so we'll take a little bit of time now so that everyone can get that set up. We'll roam around the room and help if there are any problems or things are not doing what they're supposed to do. Okay? So if you need help, raise your hand so that we know you need help. And otherwise, we'll be around. Now, as you're hopefully getting Zotero successfully installed, it may pop up with a sort of starting guide, something like that. If you think you're going to want to sync the citations that you potentially find today to another computer later on, or back them up in the cloud, you can go ahead and click the link to register for Zotero and create a free account that you can then sign in with and sync with your desktop application. You can always do that later and then set it up on your own computer at home or elsewhere when that becomes something that you want to do. Otherwise, you can just store the data locally, although since many of you are using library computers, it will disappear when those get reset.
Is anyone not ready for us to move on what to do with Zotero now?
Just to connect it for the Google.
Okay, she'll take a look. So once you've got Zotero loaded, if you're registering right now, that's fine. If you've once you're using Zotero on a different computer, when you've already set up an account, it's set up syncing that will get you into the account. So I'll quickly add access to my own account here. And I am going to go ahead and start looking at ways to add citations into this. Oh, we have another question here.
It says the directory cannot be found. Default. Yeah, just use the default and so you get a message about the data directory not being.
So the first thing I'm going to show is adding an item completely manually. So if I had a specific item in mind, I could pick New Item and then pick one of a very large list of document types. They do sort your most frequently used types of document types up at the top. So for example, I could choose to add a citation for a book, and everything in the right-hand pane becomes fields that are relevant to a book. Or I could actually, if I realize I've picked something incorrectly, I could go into this and grab a different type of thing, for example, a journal article, and then the fields change a bit to reflect a journal article. And I just had a whole bunch of things auto-populate because I had logged in with my own account. And after a bit of a pause, it did an automatic sync with my online Zotero account. So clearly you can type in journal article fields and simply save them from there. If you know something very distinctive, such as the DOI for an article, you can use that to save yourself a little bit of trouble with a lookup. So I'm going to type in a fairly short DOI here. And then I can pick in this locate icon at the top of the page, I'm going to do a cross-ref lookup. It's going to go and compare that to what it can find online. And unfortunately for me, it pulled it up in the not in the browser where I had where we had installed the connector. So I'm going to go get that into Chrome, that web page up in Chrome instead. Okay, and now that I'm in a browser that does have Zotero connector, and I'm looking at a page that has a journal article on the page, I do see the Save to Zotero option in the browser top menu bar. So I'm going to click on that and then check back over in my window for Zotero. And one other thing I'm going to do here is I can show which fields, choose which fields I want to have showing. And I want to include the date that I'm adding things to my list. The reason I'm doing that is that I can then sort by how recently I've added a date. And you see that although it did create this totally rudimentary record for the article, it is the same article as then corresponds to this more complete set of information. So I can go ahead and move this item to trash. That was just the totally stripped down, only a DOI version of it. And I'm going to keep the record that has automatically grabbed all this other information about it. With some sources, it will even grab subject headings from the description of that source as tags. So if I was interested in these, I can also check and see if any of my other sources have tags in common with this. And so I could see if I have any other articles right now dealing with biomass. And I don't, because as a librarian, I use examples from all different fields. But I can use that as one of the ways of navigating around when I've got a larger number of items in my collection. Okay, so I can go to various different types of sites to collect items. And let me try a quick version in quick search here. I need to check on agricultural machinery and fuel, see if I can find some recent articles on that just with our quick search browser. And limit my results to articles there. And since I have multiple records showing up on this page, rather than having a little document icon in the browser bar, now I have a little file folder icon. And when I click on that, it's giving me a choice of the items where it's able to successfully grab some of this information. And so I can choose which ones I want to select. And then choose OK. And they're saving into Zotero for me. So here those are popping up. And I can go in and check the info that's saved along with those. And so I do have pretty good information, but I can also check and see if it will find additional resources for me about that and combine possibly additional information from that journal at its publisher's homepage with the more simple and not as complete record that I would find through something like quick search. So you will see different types of icons in your browser depending on the type and number of items that Zotero is detecting. All right, I'm going to use another database now to demonstrate collecting articles, just partly for the variety of it. And I'm going to go into the Web of Science database, which if you're not in science, this is a database that probably still has some useful sources for you. And I'll use the same search as the previous time. Okay, so here I've got the possibility of using that Save to Zotero link directly. Or maybe because there are so many results here, I might want to pick some things from more than one page of my results. If I pick a couple from the first page of results, and pick some from my next page of results, then I'm going to use an export option here. I'm going to be able to save to various possible file formats. And the other reference software is going to fit one way that Zotero can import data, or I can even save it as plain text. So I'll choose to send it to a file. And then within Zotero, I can go to File menu and Import. And check my downloads. There it is. And it's grabbed the items from that view. Except, okay, so it looks like maybe here I did not save my checked records properly on the first page, and it just exported the two from the second page. So that's a good thing for me to notice if this is a database I'm using frequently. You can also, let's see, I've already grabbed this database, so I will take a look at, or this article. So if I take a look at an article that's not yet in Zotero, I can also save the PDF or save from the page with the PDF. So now my Save to Zotero icon is actually showing a PDF file. And I can click that to save this article. Then what I see in Zotero is not simply so it does have a link, and in fact, I can see from the tag here that it's actually going to, within Zotero, have saved that document. I can also show the file information as saved on the computer, and I can create, I guess creating a bibliography item would grab all the information about it. What I really want to do is also have the metadata, so I can look things up within Zotero. And it's going to ask me to install PDF indexing, checking for the installer. So there's a couple extra clicks if I want to be working directly with PDF files. And once that has happened, okay, not what I expected. Once that has happened, I will try again to retrieve the metadata. Okay, and now that did work. So when in this case, I now kind of have two pieces of information for this article. I have the actual PDF file, and I have the description of that file that was now grabbed with that and that shows up in my information. When I have a number of different articles, I've got lots of options within Zotero for organizing those. So maybe I'm just trying to keep track of all the articles that I've read that relate to a specific project. I can create a new collection within my library for the project, give that whatever name I want. And then, of course, it's pretty easy to grab articles from my overall library, copy them over into this particular file. The My Library file is going to always list all of the articles that are exclusive to me. So if I want to completely discard an item from Zotero, I would delete it from my library, but I can, as long as it's there, I can move it into and out of other sub-collections within Zotero as much as I want. Zotero also gives you the option to make notes about items or about folders. So you can add a note about a particular item by selecting that item, and then in the right-hand side there's a notes section, and you can add actually multiple notes. This article will be useful for methodology. And so then it's saved a note that's connected to this main article. But I can also set up a note called a standalone note that would perhaps describe everything in this folder. So that would be the scope of these articles, covers, whatever else I want to go into detail there. So then that becomes a separate file, in a sense, within the folder, in this case, 2017 Project A. So I mentioned that often when you save something from a database, it will give tags. And you can also add your own tags and either keep or delete any tags that might have come along as you imported that item. And you can keep adding additional tags as you, one at a time. So you can also save items so that they go into a particular folder within your Zotero by opening up the file where you want them to go. So I'm going to expand this this folder several layers down into my file structure and go back into Web of Science. And I had not previously chosen anything to do with this wheat tillage systems article. So I can grab the information about it because I've got a single document icon in my menu bar. And it's showing me right away. It is saving it to that specific file folder within Zotero.
So how does it now go to that specific folder?
Because that's the one that I currently have open in Zotero. So it's also kind of a good thing to keep an eye out for on the other side of things, that you don't want to be saving things into an unexpected folder because you've left open something more specific that was the wrong something more specific. But if you are saving things that say fitteth, you're doing searches on one topic of interest, and you want to keep everything from that search together, set up a separate folder for that and keep that folder open in Zotero while you're searching with the connector in your browser. And this brings us to time for you to, you maybe have done some of this while I've been talking, but now concentrate on trying it for yourself for a bit. So we've got some suggested actions that you can try in the box, your turn, on the third page of the handout. So give that a go, and we will be available as you have questions. And after we've spent 10 or 15 minutes with you sampling saving items to Zotero and organizing items in Zotero, Erin will come back and show you some additional things you can do with it, especially including using it to create bibliographies within Word.
Okay, so hopefully you've all had some success in getting Zotero to work, adding some references into Zotero, maybe organizing them a little bit, adding notes or PDFs or tags. Now I want to go over some other things that you can do with Zotero, including we'll get to play around with Zotero in Word, adding citations, creating bibliographies. First, I want to talk about syncing your data to your Zotero account if you created one. It should sync automatically. That is the default setting, I believe, for Zotero 5.0. If it is not syncing on its own, or you want to make sure, there is a green arrow in the upper right corner that when you mouse over it says sync with Zotero.org. You can click that and it will load your data into your Zotero.org account. Okay. Now, I'm going to be demonstrating with Word. Zotero also works with other word processing software. You'll have to test it and see if it works with what you have if you're not using Word. Or I believe OpenOffice is the other one that it works really well with. So I'm just going to create a blank document and pretend that I'm Chris and use Chris's citations and all of that for this next part. So you should see a Zotero tab at the top in the ribbon when you open Word or whatever word processing software you have. This version of Zotero includes all of the plugins for the word processors when you install it. You don't have to find some obscure link on their website to get the plugin. If it's not showing up in your word processor, raise your hand. We'll try and send someone around to troubleshoot. So when you click on that tab, you'll see some options, including add and edit citation, add and edit bibliography. It helps first if you go to your document preferences. This is where you will set your citation style that you want to use. It looks like it's defaulting to Chicago 16th edition note. But if you want something like an author date version, or maybe you want to use MLA, you can set it for that. If you remember back to the very beginning of this workshop, I said it is compatible with lots of different styles. You can manage your styles and that will open up Zotero and let you add styles if you've downloaded them, or you can click Get Additional Styles and search. It looks like there's almost 9,000 styles in there, so hopefully the one that you need is in there. I'm not going to scroll through them all. I'll pick by topic. So linguistics. Here are some different styles relevant for folks who study linguistics, for example. Or you could choose a different one relevant to your field if you're not sure what you might need, or you might want to pull in more than one. You can do it that way. So make sure that you have at least one citation style that you want to use. I don't know why I closed that. I prefer author date for mine. So I'm going to choose that. And then it's really straightforward. Once you've got some citations in Zotero, once everything is connected, so here's my, wow, that's very small. So here's my test sentence. I'm going to zoom into at least 100% so that maybe it's readable. Then if I want to add a citation, you just click Add/Edit Citation. And you have to know something about the thing that you want to cite in order to insert the citation. It doesn't let you browse, you have to search. Okay, so you have to know an author or a word in the title. And as soon as you start typing, it starts bringing things up from your library in Zotero. So I just started typing agriculture because I knew Chris had been adding references for different agricultural things. Then you just choose the one that you want, and it previews the citation for you, and then you hit enter and it inserts it right where you want it. So make sure that your cursor is where you actually want that citation to appear, because that's where it's going to show up. Okay. Now, let's see. Here's another citation, so I can have more than one in my bibliography. We'll just choose this one. So there I've got two now. But let's just pretend I've finished writing my paper. I have all of my stuff in here, or I've got enough stuff in here that I want to start having my bibliography. It's as simple as clicking that Add Bibliography button. It will stick your bibliography at the bottom in the correct order and in the correct format for your chosen citation style. So, yes.
Do you have several citations for a sentence?
It's going to depend on, so if you have multiple citations in one sentence, it's going to depend on your citation style, how you set that up. I don't know if Chris or Jasmine, you'd like to help with that. Yeah. So do you want to know how to insert the bibliography? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's get someone on that. So if you edit a citation, I believe you can just add a comma or other divider and then start adding a second citation or a third citation. And then it will divide them for you and add the other ones onto the bibliography automatically.
This document.
So you can do multiple citations in a single sentence that way. Let's see. And another thing that's nice about this is if you want to change midway through, it will reformat them all for you. So if you have been using a certain citation style and then find out that you need a different one, if you're submitting to a specific journal, then you've been typing your paper in, you can just change it on the fly and everything will update automatically. So that's pretty nice for saving time. All right, other things that we can do with Zotero. You'll have some time in a little bit to play with Zotero in Word or go back and work on finding more citations and importing them, syncing your library and all of that. If you, for example, have stuff in Zotero and you want to use a different citation manager, say maybe you've been trying to use EndNoteWeb, but you had a pile of PDFs sitting in a folder. You can use Zotero to pull the metadata out of those PDFs and then export that for your citation manager of choice. And there may be other reasons for exporting from Zotero. It's pretty straightforward. You select the items or the folder that you want to export. And then, oops, it helps if you only click one time. You can right click on it and choose export, in this case collection. You can choose the format of that you want. For example, there's one for EndNote. There's the basic RIS. There's also BibTeX. Lots of different formats that will work with different programs, different citation managers. So you can export notes if you want. You can export files along with it. You can choose the encoding if you want. Lots of options there. Yes. So you can also share citations and documents. So if you were wanting to maybe export things to share them with a colleague, you can actually create a shared library and store citations in that instead of having to export and share back and forth. To do that, the easiest way is to look for this new library button and choose new group. And it will make you sign in. I'm going to get stuck because I don't have Chris's login. Although I guess I could log in with my own and make an account group. That's the wrong password. Yep. See if I remember my password. Maybe not. And I'm in, finally. So remember your passwords, everyone. So then you choose a name for the group, what you want it to be called. You choose the type of membership that you want. So one thing that Zotero has tried to do is be a social networking site. So they allow you to make your groups public and open them up to anybody to join them. You can do that. You can make your group public and have closed membership, so you have to approve people who apply, or you have to invite them for them to join, but anyone can see that the group exists. Or you can choose private, so only members can view your group and they must be invited to join. So that's what I'll go ahead and do. So I'll just try that. We'll see if it likes it. Yep. Then it gives you some options. who can see stuff in the library, who can edit things. Maybe you just want the rest of the group to be able to see what's in there and not add things or make changes. Or maybe you do want to let everyone make changes and add things. So you can customize all of that in the settings. So that's not going to sync awesomely in Zotero.
Just having a hard time to know how to add people, whether they
Okay.
have Zotero or not.
So where did it open that? Was that in here? Yes. So I'm in the settings here. Go back to my groups. So I have this test group, and there you would choose, so you have to go to your groups through the Zotero website and choose Manage Members. Or member settings. And this is where you can send invitations. So you can use email addresses, and I believe that works even if they don't have a Zotero account, or you can use their Zotero username if you know that they have one. Okay, so I'll add Chris to my test group because hers is very short and easy to remember. It's only 4 letters. So now I have someone that's been invited. She'll be able to join this group if she wants to. If I realize, oops, that's the wrong colleague, I meant to send it to someone else, I can cancel the invitation. All that good stuff. Yep, and if you are logged in on the correct account, you will, so let me unlink Chris's account and add mine. And now it'll take it a second to reboot. And you can see I have several group libraries showing up in mine. They're beneath my library. So there's nothing in the group yet, the group library. I can add stuff from my collection. I can import directly to it. It works just like a regular library, only it's accessible to everyone that's been added as a member. So for example, I'll add my Pygmy Rabbits folder to the group, and now if Chris accepts the invitation to the group, she would have access to those citations.
So my library itself doesn't change, just, if I'm adding, it's like I'm picking a copy.
Yes, yes. If you can put things into multiple folders, you can have the same folder in multiple locations. Because everything is coming centrally from that My Library, you're just adding links out to that citation elsewhere to tell it to, that you want that to be organized into that folder and this other folder, things like that. All right. Now, it's important to know with Zotero that there are 2 types of storage associated with Zotero. There's data storage. That's the storage of the information in the citations. That's unlimited. That's also free. Storage for things like PDFs, there's a set amount that comes with a free account. If you want to upgrade to more, it's a monthly or yearly fee associated with that. It looks like my notes say annual, so you can upgrade to more storage for things like PDFs if you want to store them in the Zotero.org cloud. As I mentioned, it can be used for social networking. You don't see that very often, but it is good for groups to share citations and references. They also have really good documentation. So as you go home or back to your office and start experimenting with this, On Zotero.org, there's a link in the center of the navigation for documentation. It's easy to read. It's in plain language. You can search it really easily. Right now there's a note that they're in the process of updating the documentation because they just recently upgraded to version 5.0. You can find a lot of really helpful information in there if you can't figure out what's going on or how to do a specific thing that you want to do. And now, before I turn it over to you to take your turn again, I do want to address how you log out of Zotero if you're on a public computer. Like if you've downloaded it onto one of our computers and you've been using your Zotero.org account with it, it automatically stays synced to your account. You'll want to go under Edit to Preferences, and then you can unlink an account, which I did very quickly earlier when I was switching from Chris's account to mine.
You have this on the back page.
Yes. So if you do need to refer back to this at any point, it is in your handout. And you do want to make sure that you check Remove My Zotero Data from this computer before you unlink the account, or it will leave everything that you've done on the computer that you've been using. Okay, so make sure you do that before you leave today if you don't want all of your citations and notes and things like that to be left on our public computers. Okay, and now it is your turn again. We have some time yet before 4:30. We have some other suggested activities to try on the back page of the worksheet, or I guess the handout, or you can go back and work on whatever it is that strikes your fancy about Zotero. And Jasmine, Chris, and I will be here to answer questions, help you get started. Okay? Thank you all for coming.